I was busy being wonderful in Alcoholics Anonymous. My daughter didn't have anybody. She was 12 years old. She was starting to come home at all hours of the night, beat up and bloody. She'd been jumped into a gang and starting to find her sense of family and camaraderie out in the street where I used to. And I was getting scared. And that's where I learned that right up front, boy, in that big book, every time I open it up, you know, they've got something new in there. And you'll hear that a lot, but it's just really true. And it's just so rich with wisdom. Right up front, it says a more important demonstration of our principles happens in our homes, occupations, and affairs. And if I'm only doing it in these rooms, I'm only half doing it. And I had to stop going to 2 and 3 meetings a day and go to 1 meeting and go to my job and then go home and take care of that kid. And she had to go to a treatment center for a little while. She needed some pretty big help, and I was pretty afraid for her. And so I had to lie to her to get her to this treatment center. And it was a center that was. They dealt with adolescents with all kinds of problems, and so she was in there, and I thought I was signing her life away. I just didn't really know how this was going to go down, if I was doing the right thing or not. And as I was signing these papers, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I looked up, and it was a guy from my home group who was there. He was a recreation guy there in that program, and I got that sense of, okay, you're on the right track. And she was there for 6 months, and it was for me to go show up. And that's where you guys taught me that mountains are moved a spoonful at a time, and that I learned how to live life with unresolved problems, with things I didn't always know the answers to and could take a long time, and to settle in. And the TV screen of my life was filled with a lot of darkness when I got here, and then slowly but surely the light of hope would come in, and they were speckles at first, but now there are a few specks of darkness, and the whole screen is pretty much light, and there's a lot of hope. And when she got out of that treatment center, she wanted to go live with her dad, and I had to step aside and let her go do that. And I continued, just did what we do. I mean, growing. There was always just enough hope, day by day by day, to keep me coming and excited about this thing. And I was real involved in my home group and sponsoring and just. But somewhere along the line, I guess I was blindsided. At 5 years sober, I came home from the gym one night, and I took my shower as usual, and I always find it necessary to tell you that I took my shower after the gym. I don't know why that is, but I came home and I went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night to a man standing over my bed with a knife to my neck and his hand over my mouth, and he said, "Don't say a word or I'll cut your head off." And he took the telephone cord and he tied my hands behind my back, and he raped me and he robbed me that night in my room. And I want to tell you that night that first of all, that I had a much bigger God than I'd gotten here with. I had a God that comforted me enough in that moment for me to know that things were as they should be. I didn't know how they were going to turn out, but I no longer had that immature God that exists when things go my way and doesn't exist when things don't go my way. God is or he isn't. He's either everything or he's nothing. And got nothing to lose by choosing to see that he's everything. And so in that moment I found him, and there was a kind of a calm and a fight or flight going on at the same time. I was trying to pay attention, and I got to say a little prayer for my daughter that if she had to hear some bad news about her mom, that please let somebody be there with her. And it struck me later that it's only Alcoholics Anonymous that could fit me to be of the state of mind, have the presence of mind to say a prayer like that at a time like that. And then I quickly returned to me because, you know, I'm a little busy here. And he was there for a few hours, and then we got into a little tussle, a little wrestling match at a strategic time, and we wrestled, and I headed for the front door, and I couldn't get out the front door because my bolt lock was on, but he got shaken up enough to go out the same window he came in. He left, and it turned out that I knew him. I'd actually watched him get sober 30 days before I did. I watched him get his life, his wife, his kids, and everything back, and then I watched him join the church and leave AA behind, and when he went out like that. And while I know that the big book tells us to be quick to see where religious people are right, I learned the terms and conditions of my disease in Alcoholics Anonymous. Here's where I learned that I'm not one of those people that can go home after a Sunday sermon and have a glass of wine. Here's where I learned that. Then I can go anywhere I want to and worship, but I had to come here and see and address that specifically. This is where we talk about it. Church, they address spirituality as a whole, and here we talk about alcoholism and as it relates. And my sponsor told me I was going to have to forgive this guy, and I know she's right. I know that we're people who can't handle even seemingly justifiable resentments, but God, the guy scared me, you know. I'd stand out on the sidewalk and a car door would slam and I'd jump and I'd get pissed all over again. Because that's how at 5 years of sobriety I was still reacting to my life. Anger was my favorite. Still can be. I like that edge. I don't want to let go of that edge completely all the time, because like I told you in the beginning, man, you'll walk all over me. If I let go of that fuming, smoking anger, then I'll be the hole in the donut. And I don't know what I'm supposed to look like on the other side of this, but I know I can't live like this. And I know that I've had better. In 5 short years of Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew that I had better. And I couldn't live like this. This guy owns me. And I know that. So I don't know how to do this except to say the 7-step prayer over and over. It became my mantra. It became my everyday meditation and all through the day. And there was a court trial that followed, and as part of the defense, they had a lot of the guys I had known years before get up and testify as to who I used to be. And that's the power of alcohol. The power alcohol had over me was back then. I mean, I'd go into the bar for a couple of angry drinks, and I'd end up behaving in ways that I didn't plan on. My ex-husband was one of those guys. He got up and testified, and that's the mark I'd left on him, was the fact that he was more inclined to testify on behalf of a rapist than he was for me. And he's never been interested in any of my amends, and so that's had to be okay over the years. And then I had to get a character witness for me. By that time, I was working at a big investment firm downtown Los Angeles. It's a place I never even would have walked in the front doors of years before. Never would have. I came in there, started as a secretary, and I got to tell you something. When I walked into that big fancy place the first time, before I even saw it, I mean, I had gotten this job, and I was walking in, and after the interview, it scared me even more. I mean, am I going to do it? And you guys had taught me already by then. By the time I'd gotten this job, you get from the bed to the coffee pot, and the coffee pot to the car, and you take the first block, and then the next, and then the next, and then pretty soon it's like old hat, and I'm doing that. And so I'm working in this place, and the division head there in the area where I worked, he volunteered to come and testify on my behalf. We needed a character witness, and they told him all about who I used to be, and he said, yeah, but she shows up early and she stays late, and she was where she said she was. And see, that's Alcoholics Anonymous speaking for itself. He didn't have to be coached, he just got up and told the truth as he'd experienced it through me. And then it was my turn to testify, and I'm looking for this forgiveness. Where am I going to find this forgiveness? I don't know. Was it supposed to be done before I got here? And I got up in the witness stand, and I sat down, and I looked out at him, and I saw him sitting at the defense table. And that's a place where I've sat, and I could sit again. And it occurred to me that if I were to take a drink, I could be sitting in his very seat. Maybe not for rape, but something equally as destructive. And it occurred to me, like it talks about in the pages of that book, like I'm like him. I'm spiritual. He's spiritually sick like me. And it occurred to me that what we were 2 alcoholics sitting on opposite sides of the courtroom. And something happened to reduce that difference from him and me, so that I could finally start to relinquish the fear. It didn't all go away, and angels weren't singing hallelujah, I can promise you that. But just like a little crack of light under the doorway came in, and I was able to start to let go of the fear. And it took about 18 months for the nightmares and all the kind of stuff that goes along with something like that to go away, but it did. And he was sentenced to 20 years, and he did 17, and he's not been able to stay out of prison. But I know it works. I know that Alcoholics Anonymous works inside prisons. We've had the privilege of going out to the county jail and up to Northern California or Central California to go talk to the guys in the prison up there, and I love it. The first time I had to go up and tell this story, I did not want to be the one that told those guys that I testified against somebody. I just didn't want to be the one. And after I did, they walked up to me and they said, you are in the safest place you could be. And I found out after getting to know those guys that some of those guys are in there sharing this program with each other, and they're finding a way to be useful to each other inside and to the people that they've harmed. And some of them are never getting out. And there's a guy up there who says it's not the address, it's the attitude. And I love that. They walk spiritually free like you and I. Not that they wouldn't trade places, I know, but the detective who worked the case came, I think I told you that already. A detective who worked the case came to me and said, I don't know who you were back then, I'm not even sure I want to know, but whatever it is you're doing now, keep doing it. Seems to be working. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. And I wish that that had been the only high point in my sobriety. And I got to tell you, too, I was a little confused. I was a little kind of blindsided by that whole event, because not that I didn't get through and it wasn't like floored. My home group had swooped in around me and the fellowship just picked me up and walked me through that whole thing. I mean, miracle after miracle after miracle about that. But there was that lingering notion of, was there something? Is a girl like me just bound to run into something like this from time to time? First of all, I'd been working 12 golden steps. How did this happen? And of course, I mean, the obvious. People who never drank, they get robbed, they get raped, they get hurt. People who never drank and did the things that I did, things happened to them. And they just moved through it without having to destroy the rest of their lives for it. And they said, you can't take it so personally. You just got in the way of somebody not looking to do God's will. That's all you did. You got in the way. And it allowed me to sort of let go of it a little bit, to sort of relinquish that idea that it was all about me. And so I just kept moving. We get up and we keep doing what we do. And I went to meetings and I sponsored ladies. And, I learned about compassion. I went up there after about 3 days after that had happened. I went up to my meeting and my sponsor had picked me up and we were sitting back there. And my friend Penny was sitting next to me. And I couldn't cry yet. It's not even that I do it on purpose. I just don't cry. It takes me a while to process something. And I was just sort of sitting there still, and I just knew, they called on me to share, and I shared that I knew that you could go through anything in Alcoholics Anonymous and not have to pick up a drink. And my friend Penny started to cry. And that's where I saw compassion. I saw compassion in action. And we have all these living videos in this fellowship. Just look around. Whatever you need to see, you'll see. It's in here somewhere. Sometimes the difference between my will and God's will is like a whisper. I start out on the right track during the day and throughout my life, and then all of a sudden I get into that self-propulsion. Okay, and I turn the jet engines on and And I don't know where or when that happens. I'm not always awake to it. I guess I have things to learn. But a couple years later, I got involved with a guy and got into a real bad business deal. And with him, I didn't know he was mismanaging funds. And I had left a really great job to start this business with him. And I sort of, it was that dichotomy again of like, of course I deserve this, and at the same time being scared to death of him and denying my own instincts, thinking that it was just because of all the stuff that had happened when I was 5, and thinking that I was afraid of this man because of myself again. And I was afraid of him because I should have been. And I ended up, long story short, bankrupt at 10 years sober and having to... I was just so scared. I was sinking into the mire, and I didn't know, how could this happen in sobriety? How could it happen? And I had to look at myself, look at my own inventory, my greed, my sense of success. I've got to be this kind of a success, or it's just, I'd heard all of these great stories in AA, and now I'm going to become one of them, and it's going to look like this, and I have to relinquish those ideas. And anyway, 10 years sober, I think maybe 10 years is all I get. I was so depressed. I left meetings feeling worse than when I got there. And maybe I've just had a good run. Maybe those psychiatrists were right. Maybe I'm just, maybe I've got those disorders are creeping back up. And I made an appointment with a psychiatrist, and I thought, I'll surrender to that if I need to. But I made another phone call, and it was to a lady named Rita at another home group, and I'd heard her story, and I called her up, and long story short, she started to sponsor me. And she said, you'll come out here and you'll join my home group, and you'll take my instruction and you won't debate, and you'll pay the money back. And so I did. And my life began to get better. I had to get busy back in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not that I had ever left, but I had to do it with a new fervor. I've had to start over a couple of times in Alcoholics Anonymous without drinking, you know what I mean? And that's the best way to start over in AA.